Hi, this is Jack Tompkins from Pineapple Consulting Firm, and you're listening to EA Interviews.
EA Interviews, episode 236.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
I am super excited for today's episode because I'm a geek and I like numbers and I can handle spreadsheets. I'd rather be in front of the camera than 12 hours looking at them. However, some of the funnest things to do that I've done with EA Interviews is my master spreadsheet that spills into my team and they get different things and you can connect it. But if you don't measure your numbers, you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going to be. Try driving your car without the gas gauge and without the speedometer. How confident are you, no matter if you have a junk car or a brand new Rolls Royce or Ferrari? How far are you going? How fast are you going to get there? Or are you going to just be like, this is nuts. I have no desire to even turn the thing on. Why would you do your business any different? If you're not measuring the metrics, you're lost. You're basically driving blindfolded and you don't know how much gas is left. That is why I'm excited to have Jack Tompkins on the show, because when I saw that he helps people specialize in not just the data, but visualizing it, well, this is a match made in heaven, and we're going to bring him up right after we thank the sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Tompkins. Jack, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great, Mario. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to dive in. I'm feeling great because, like I was saying, is that a preamble, the intro, whatever you want to call it? Literally, when I saw what you did, I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Because so many people are just kind of doing stuff out there, and maybe they have a team of people that does it for them, but if they don't understand the importance of the numbers and then being able to visualize it, I mean, literally, I feel like you're driving the car blind, so why would you say it's so important?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. And so the end goal of what I do is often called the dashboard. And the car example is the perfect one because that is your car dashboard, right? It's got your speedometer, it's got your fuel, it's got your RPM, it's got all the good stuff there. And without it, you can get where you're going, kind of, but you're going to hit a lot of speed bumps along the way. So yeah, it's a great analogy. So I'm actually going to steal that. Thank you.
Oh, feel free. I'll give you another one because one of my favorite comedians, Chris Rock, he's like, I'm not going to say exactly what he says, but he's like, you can drive a car with your foot if you want to, but that don't make it a good idea. I'm like, that is a true and accurate statement, sir.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Just like running a business.
So we have all these spreadsheets, we have all these data inputs, we have all kinds of information. There's no shortage of it. What do you do specifically to visualize it and make it manageable for people? And basically fun, because I kind of like visual stuff.
Right. Who doesn't? I think there's a number out there. I think it's like 65% of people are visual learners. And I think it's a bit low because you throw a big red X on the screen, everyone is going to understand that whatever that is not going well. So basically what I do is kind of take your boring looking black and white plain paper reports, whether it's accounting or marketing or operational data, and I throw it into charts and graphs and throw some indicators on it and stuff and put it into that nice dashboard. So if you're not financially savvy, if you don't want to spend time looking at it, whatever the case is, you can spend 5 minutes looking at it and get the full depth of your entire business.
What brought you into doing it? How come you wanted to start this business?
So I've always been kind of a nerd. I say kind of pretty incorrectly. I've always been very much a nerd. And I've always had an entrepreneurial bug too. So I was in the corporate world for a while and did the whole like generic leadership development program. And it was very good people. And I was an analyst in a couple different capacities. And then I realized that I graduated the program and it was time to pick your job, right? What are you going to do for the next 3 to 5 years? I was like, holy crap, I don't know about that. So I kind of matched up. All right, well, I'm a pretty good analyst for this giant corporation. I bet small businesses need it too. So it was sort of this passion of mine diving into things like Excel and playing with the numbers and helping people, because a small business owner needs that same resource that the big business has, but they don't have it. They don't have access to it. So I figured, why not give it a shot? And it's been pretty fun so far.
For the small businesses that you're working with, what would you say over 80% of them need the most help with?
It's a good question. I would say the number one thing is just being able to see their numbers easily. So I say that because there's a couple different scenarios that I work with. One is it takes them too long to see their numbers. One is they don't know what their numbers are at all, and a couple other ones. But it's all, if they can easily see their numbers, it makes a world of difference. And it's not going to take them 5 hours to dive through it. If it's a quick little process, and I say see, meaning you see visuals, not just numbers on a piece of paper. You see the charts and graphs. It makes everything sink in a whole lot easier. And again, to those who aren't necessarily financially savvy, or they're just the widget maker, whatever it is, anybody can look at a graph and get the picture.
So bar graph or pie graph, which one do you think tastes better?
It depends on the data, honestly. I think a bar graph is more widely used. There's a place for a pie graph, but if I had to pick one, I'd go bar graph.
Really? Why is that?
Because I think you can show a whole lot of things with it. One of the things, especially in business, is showing the trend. So, simple example, revenue over 12 months. If you see that in a bar graph, it makes a whole lot of sense. Pie graph would be tough. Pie graph is great in the example of where's my revenue coming from.
Yes.
And it's a good snapshot in time. So you've got 4 or 5 different sources, put them into a pie graph. It's a really, really nice visual. Throw some percents on it too to give them the actual number. And it's a strong combo together is really probably the best answer.
Okay. Yeah, I love the percentage and, profit margin ratios. And when you can just look at it and it's like, here's the sources, here's the margin, But yeah. I do see your point when you're going, okay, let's annualize this over 12 months. Yeah, that would be kind of a mess in the pie. I just think it's because the visual of the circle, I don't know. I lean towards the pie myself, but when you're talking about the annualizing the financials, yeah, it would be better in a bar graph. So what have you found since you're talking about all the spreadsheets and the data and all of this, do you find that once people use your service and you can visualize it for them, they start spending more time doing it?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that they are actually excited. And I think you mentioned early on the call here that they might actually have some fun doing it. And I do find that a lot because there's always some interactions. You can pick your different date, you can pick your different scenario, all that fun stuff. And it is kind of fun to play around and see all the graphs change according to it's kind of like you have the power, It's really fun for a business owner to just go in there and play. So I see them spending more time in that. I don't see them more spending time in the boring stuff, which is obviously great, which is the whole back end, getting the data ready and doing that whole process. Obviously a great thing to be spending less time there. But yeah, they have a whole lot of fun just playing around with the switches and selections and whatnot.
Okay. And I know the goal isn't to get lost in it. Like with the spreadsheet, you can get lost and it's like it might take you an hour to figure out something that you should be taking 5 or 10 minutes to do.
Right.
But I was thinking people would want to be the easier it is to look at. I mean, anything, the more you're drawn into it, I would think the more you are wanting to go, like you said, let's see how it changes. Let's see what's going on here. Anything that's more visual for me, it's going to get at least some extra time. It doesn't mean I'm going to just drop everything and just get lost in it. But I in my own personal experience, it was like, I don't care. This looks boring to, okay, you at least got my attention.
Right, exactly.
So do you have a lot of people who that's their issue too. They're not even like, and I'm thinking back over a decade ago, before like my early days of business. I'm way better now with all this stuff. Obviously, I'd like to think so after a decade. But do you find that some people, you're able to take them from they have no desire to look at it to now they're interested, or were they all interested in before and now they can digest it and make more sense of it, whether they're spending more time or not?
Oh, it's definitely option one there. There's some folks who are they just fly by the seat of their pants and they trust their gut, and
They have no idea. They don't care.
a lot of right, exactly. But then you make it easy for them to see it, and it's sort of that slower adoption phase where it's okay, like, I'm not completely sure what I should do here. Maybe I'll check the dashboard, and then it's like, okay, the dashboard helped me a lot. Maybe I'll check it regularly, and then it sort of snowballs and they check it every day.
Okay. So what would you say are the top 3 things that someone should be looking for in their company when you're going through the financials?
When they're going through the financials, number one is kind of very basic. I would say make sure that you are actually going through the financials, and maybe tag teaming that for a joint number one is make sure that's an easy process, because as I've mentioned, if it takes a while, you're not going to want to do it. But as you're going through, I would say one thing that's going to be pretty common across every industry, every business, is really your top and bottom line. And that is a very, very generic, easy answer. But at the end of the day, that's what pays the bills. I think, I want to say every business that I've worked with has one of their KPIs, their key performance indicators.
Okay.
It is always revenue or profit, and oftentimes both. So that's something you just got to stay on top of.
Are there any other KPIs that you've found interesting? Is there like 3, 4, or 5 main ones? Or are those the top 2 always?
Those are definitely top 2. I've seen a few that are oftentimes, use a restaurant as an example. There's a certain expense that they want to monitor. So in restaurants, it's often labor. And I think that's true in a lot of different industries. But there's always that one big expense they got to keep an eye on.
Have you ever seen them do it with like the cost of meat or cheese or any of the food?
Yeah. It gets grouped up into the cost of goods sold, but then there's always a spike out of, okay, we got the total number. Is the meat driving it or is the cheese driving it, kind of thing?
Okay.
And oftentimes that's not necessarily a bad thing. That probably means that people are buying more meat and or cheese.
So when you're looking at the KPIs, and I'm glad you mentioned that for anyone who doesn't know the key performance indicator, how long do you traditionally track them for, and how long should someone be tracking them for?
Have the data for as long of a time period as you can. It's always nice to look back to a different time period, because you might have had a 1 in 3 year event happen and all of a sudden it happened again. You want to see what it was back 3 years ago. I would say the most common comparisons I see are month over month, meaning February compared to January, or year over year, meaning February of this year compared to February of last year. Both of those present pretty good gauges on how your company's growing. And you could roll that up to the quarter level too, or whatever makes the most sense. But month over month and year over year, pretty easy to look at, or pretty easy to do rather, and pretty impactful. So it's that sort of upper right quadrant process to do.
Okay. Let's talk about your clients. You don't need to name them if you're under an NDA or anything like that, but you're welcome to. Tell me about the biggest transformation you were ever able to give someone who came to you. They probably weren't even doing anything. They didn't want to look at it. It was boring to them. And now they're in love with looking at all the stuff they previously weren't.
Yeah. I knew this question was coming. I took some time to think about it, and I think I landed on a pretty fun one. It was extra fun for me because it was one of my first ones, really. It was sort of when I was starting out and just feeling out the business. And it was just a local insurance agency, sort of down the road, mom and pop shop. And literally it's a family run shop, which is awesome. Love helping them. And their whole thing was just, let's get out there and sell, right? Because the insurance agent, there's a certain commission on each policy, and it's not super black and white, or it's not that black and white rather. But at the end of the day, sales is probably the main focus. So keeping an eye on the financials was sort of the secondary thing that they would do every quarter. And so every quarter, the owner of the agency would go in, and it literally took him over a day, he said. So call it at least 8 hours. And he would get this Excel file that was pretty much every single day of the year had its own sheet. And he would go and he would manually copy and paste everything into this like scratchwork summary that just kind of got everything on the same page. And you couldn't really tell if it was good or bad. It just all ended up in the same spot. So he would spend 8 hours getting to this unsatisfying result. So he and I were just chatting, and it was in Excel, and he knew I loved Excel. So he was like, hey, can you do anything about this? And I was like, oh, absolutely, 110%. So I built in this little tool, and now all he does is he puts the data in, he presses a button, and he has 2 full-fledged dashboards that break it out by month, by quarter, by company, by carrier, and all this other good stuff. So he can see completely the ins and outs of his entire financial business. And it takes him about 10 minutes as compared to the 8 painstaking hours that it used to.
That is huge.
Yeah. It's very
8 hours versus 10 minutes?
It's a no-brainer.
Now, you said you built him this dashboard. Are you able to do this inside of Excel, or do you bring the data into a different system that allows you to customize it more, but you're still pulling the data from Excel?
It's typically within Excel, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. The number 2 spot is going into Tableau, which if you or the listeners have not heard of, it's a data visualization tool. Competitors of it are like Microsoft Power BI or Qlik or other things like that. It's basically just automated data visualization. I do a lot in Excel, though, because it is very universal.
No kidding. Tell me more about that. I've never heard of it, and no one, well, that would make sense. If I've never heard of it, no one's ever mentioned it to me before.
That tracks, yeah.
But I also have no idea how to do this in Excel. I mean, I know how to set up a spreadsheet, but as much as I can now tolerate it, let's say that, it was never my forte, but I do appreciate it and respect it. Tell me about this other software. Yeah.
So Tableau is sort of that, some people call it Excel on steroids. Kind of a misnomer. There's a whole bunch of different functionality, and some of it's better and some of it's worse. A lot of it is better, though. And the goal of Tableau is to have a very user-friendly, very interactive dashboard. So it's something that you can literally just go to a website. It's as if you are just simply going to a website that's customized with your brand colors and everything. You go to it, you click around, you can hover over everything, and it gives you this full report or whatever you want. You can click on different time frames or different scenarios. One of the big things about it, or two of the big things about it, I guess. One is that it can take data from anywhere. So Excel is similar.
Is it pulling it in through API? Most
of the time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it can take data through that API pretty much from anywhere. I haven't tested them all out, but a common one that I use is through QuickBooks. It's a nice, easy connection, and it's automatically updated. So my joke / story is when I was in the corporate world, we used to look at this specific set of numbers once a month because it took people about 2 hours to update. I was a hero because I built something that was similar to that 8-hour story. I built something that you just dump it in and it takes 10 minutes to update. So we looked at it weekly. And then we were introduced to Tableau, and that updates the data automatically at 3 a.m. while you're sleeping. It was like 2 or 3 times a week or something like that. I could be the best analyst in the world, but I can't compare to updating it while people are sleeping. So that's a huge benefit of Tableau.
Yeah, just having it automatic like that?
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. There's a whole lot of good functionality in it. I would say there's definitely specific use cases where it makes sense. There's a whole lot of specific use cases that Excel makes sense instead, or in addition to, honestly.
All right, let's throw a little bit of fun in here. Let's talk about Google Sheets.
Okay, let's do it.
What are the pros and cons of Google Sheets versus Tableau to Microsoft Excel?
So Google Sheets is honestly, for your everyday type of thing, I think they've done a pretty good job. It could never replace true Excel. It's a different animal than Tableau. But Google Sheets, I mean, they have a whole lot of functionality in there. You could probably get 70-80% of Excel's functionality within Google Sheets. Obviously, it's free, super easy to share, huge pros there. Some of the cons, it gets a little slow if you're dealing with a decent amount of data. Mm-hmm. Charts and graphs are a bit more difficult in there. I don't think I can make a dashboard in Google Sheets, although I will try if somebody wants me to.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but now you got me. So I have a spreadsheet, the master one I was telling you about for the show, and I had 150 columns wide when I started. It's now over 200 with every single data point you can think of. And now with the show being over 200 episodes, it was a lot when I was launching and it was in 10 or 20. And now it's like...
Right.
So when you were mentioning making charts and stuff, I'm like, I wonder what we could do, like how much more we could visual. I color coded them all because, again, visual. Sure. But if you saw the data that was in there, I'm half curious, like what you would be able to pull off, even if we had to export it into something else. And I'm sure, there's other CEOs listening going, yeah, they probably have 40 years of data with tens of thousands of customers or clients or whatever the case is, hundreds of thousands. And it's like, how do you take that and just go, hey, let's start here to visualize it. Let's do this instead of just yet another column. Right. Do you get into anything on the infographic side, or is it all within the charts and graphs that the softwares are able to do?
It's more the latter there. So it's typically within what the software is. I would say there's a limit. Whereas you kind of talk about the rows of data and the columns of data and stuff. There's a limit to each one, right? So Google Sheets, it's going to stop being super helpful. I don't have a great number for you, but faster than Excel. Okay. And then for anybody who's worked in a corporation with thousands of rows of data, hundreds of thousands of rows, Excel stops being helpful and starts crashing a lot in that several 100,000 row, or depending on how many columns you have kind of thing. Tableau being the third tier, I have yet to see it falter on any amount of data. Which is kind of like, it might take an extra 5-10 seconds, but it keeps going and it goes strong, and it's been millions and millions and millions of rows. So there's different thresholds to each. Yeah. So
you have some clients that literally have millions and millions of rows?
I have one right now. Back in my corporate days, I had a whole lot of different data sets that were millions and millions of rows. Okay. Yeah.
And it can handle that?
Yeah, Tableau, it's one of the things that it's built for.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
I still think what I have for the EA interviews production is still a lot, but I can't even imagine, like, I've done 191,578 interviews, like, and then have 200 columns on each one, like, I even have a column for what color tie I'm wearing, so that way they're not all yellow, all blue, I alternate them.
Yeah. Oh, I commend you. That's good data collection.
What's another one? Transfer time. People are like, oh, I like the show, this and that. Yeah. Well, you know how many hard drives I go through for 4K? I record the show in 4K and stream it in HD. There's a few video files that are, and then it's chopped up, and then, how long does it take to send to the team? How long does it take to get back? Release schedule. There's like 15 steps for every episode. So
yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah. This is a very high quality production. I will give you credit while we're on the air here.
Well, I do appreciate that, but yeah, I just thought that was a lot of data. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, like.
Yeah, it is. So I'll go in the complete opposite direction, where that is an enormous amount of data, and the millions and millions of rows is typically reserved for at least the middle market companies, if not the large corporations.
I'm thinking like a healthcare company where you have 1 million customers and they have like an insurance, healthcare insurance or a car company, or, you know what I mean, where their customers are the state of Michigan, the state of North Carolina, the whole U.S.
Yes,
Banks.
That's exactly right. Yep, it's funny you mentioned insurance. That was my corporate life. I was in the insurance world, and it was, a specific policy for a specific person that was in an industry that also was in a sub-industry that was in a specific state that was from a specific sales rep, and all these different criteria. It's just the more you pack in there, it starts to make a bit more sense why it is millions and millions of rows.
So you're not using Google Sheets at that point?
You've just barely breached it, yes.
Okay. Well, I have something fun I get to ask you now. I mean, this whole thing's been fun, but this is the wheel of whatever.
Okay, let's spin
so,
it.
Do you know the question I'm going to ask you?
I don't.
You know why?
Because it's the wheel of whatever.
Bingo. And that's all I put on the show flow, so here we go. Hold on. Still working on the stand. Man, okay. I'm killing it today.
That looks great, yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't spin so well.
Wow, that's a Wheel of Fortune level spin right there.
Cool, that worked. So my question for you is, who is a company you would love to work with that you haven't yet?
Company that I would love to work with that I have not yet. That is a good question. I think I would like to work with like a cool restaurant chain. Like I'm in the South, so Chick-fil-A is the cool restaurant chain down here. So I'll use that as the example, I guess. Kind of for one, because Chick-fil-A is awesome, or insert your favorite restaurant chain here. Maybe not even chain, maybe even just a couple locations of good local food. From a data perspective, that's so much fun. And everybody loves restaurants. Everybody loves going to eat and drink. I think it would be so cool to play with some of that data and help a restaurant stay in business, especially if I like them, and just get in the weeds of that data. I think that'd be a blast.
Excellent. And they are a good restaurant, but
yeah,
that would be a good one. I hope you can. And if I ever have the CEO on the show, I will definitely tell him about you and to check out this episode.
Perfect. Thank you.
And if the CEO of Chick-fil-A, you happen to know him, or you're already listening or watching, I'd like to invite you on. There we go. So
there it is. Perfect. Yeah. It's a bit outside my small business niche, but hey, they're a big proponent of small businesses, I think. So it all works out.
All right. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back with the imperfect action. You've heard me say every business needs a book, including yours. And it's true. And that's why you should visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take it from a few of my authors, like Lori.
And I went from having an idea and a possibility to actually getting my book published.
Or Catherine.
Thank you for making my mom #1 best-selling author.
Or Mary Alice.
What he got done for me in 3 days regarding my book launch, unmanageable.
John Cody.
I've worked with Mario over the phone and online, and he's been very helpful in getting me where I needed to go with promoting my books.
Rocio.
There's no way in the world I would have been able to do this with somebody else. I've attempted it in the past. It didn't serve me. As a matter of fact, I ended up more frustrated than anything. So this has been a very seamless process.
Adele.
If you're looking for an amazing business coach, I highly recommend Mario Ficini.
Or Bill Benner.
I can't make a higher recommendation than to work with Mario Ficini. He has been great for me, and right now I won't work with anybody else except for Mario.
Hey, their words, not mine. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com to get started now, and I look forward to hearing your transformation as the next video success story. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Jack, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I am. Let's go for it, Mario.
All right, 60-second answers. First one is, what is the fastest path to the profits?
Fastest path to the profits is really taking a look at the numbers. I say that obviously very biased, but if your gut is guiding you, that's fantastic. The numbers will probably support it, and it might even allow you to maximize profits or maximize revenue or what you're going for. So go for the numbers, let them talk to you.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem your prospects are making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's simply not really looking at the numbers. I mean, I don't want to say the same answer for 2, but it's very similar where it's there's a lot of folks that have a whole lot of data. It could be marketing, could be stored in QuickBooks or something like that. Something like Revenue Source, that's a common one. And they're just not diving into where all their revenue and where all their profits are coming from. And if you can get a hold on that and then get into the numbers and start maximizing that, it can unlock just awesome benefits for your company.
Excellent. Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Well, if they're bringing me on, I'd say use the crap out of me. I'm pretty cheap, and a lot of folks have me on retainer, and I offer all sorts of analytics and different views and stuff. And if you have me or somebody like me or any sort of analyst, even in-house, let them run, let them go for it, and have them come up with some creative things. And there's always some good stuff in the numbers. So the more you can lean into that, especially with me, I'd say the better off you're going to be.
Because you're going to be seeing stuff that it's not even on my radar. I don't even know exists. Like when you're talking about the charts, it's like, can Google Sheets do that? I've been using it for years. I have no clue.
Right.
I know how to make a row and color code it, and it's worked. But
there you go.
It's actually one thing I look for when I'm bringing people on the team. And for anyone listening, I wholeheartedly support this 100%, because the whole reason you're trusting someone on your team is because that's their area of expertise.
Right.
I have mine. It's not generally what I hire people for. Or if it is, they're a lot better at it and I don't have the time for it. So I love going, all right, what do I not even know about that we should be doing? Oh, something changed with XYZ last month in the industry, da-da-da-da. Sweet, implement it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I would have never known. I'm very thankful for that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think too many people don't want to say it because it's like, I don't want to irritate the person I'm working for, but really it should be a partnership. It shouldn't, you know what I mean? But at the same point, it's also like, I have no clue. I'm not trying to be everything to everyone. Just let me talk on camera and talk to people, make phone calls, book appointments, and do sales, and the rest, like, I know how to do. I don't have time. I don't want to do it. It's like, only I can host the show.
Exactly.
And I can bring in business for everyone. The less I need to think about all of it, hey, here's more work.
That's a win-win-win all across the board.
I remember hiring people in college. I was sitting next to them. I loved what I was doing with the graphics and animation and all this stuff. And I even told the teacher that everyone was going like, where are you getting all these clients from? I'm like, it's not rocket science. You know what I mean? For me, it wasn't. And there was one time I told the teacher, I go, you know, I'm doing actual client work, right? He's like, yeah. I go, I don't have time for homework and this. Can I just use the client work as homework? He's like, yeah, go for it. I know it's the same. It was exactly the same stuff, but everyone had these portfolios of all this great work. And I'm like, I have no clue how you did that. Here's my thing over here.
Yeah.
Like an animation sequence. And it was cool. I was proud of myself, but I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. But here's
awesome.
5 new clients. So.
Right. There you go. Stick to your strengths. There's the moral.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So what books would you recommend to Expert Authority World that have made a big impact on your life?
There's a couple. One is a book that's called Show Me the Numbers, and it's by a guy named Stephen Few, and it's sort of, here's how to display numbers. And that sounds like a very basic concept, but continuing with the whole theme of my business and the show, of course, sort of steps to take to implement this in your business. How to actually visualize numbers. I think it's a great start. Again, Show Me the Numbers by Stephen Few is number one.
Excellent. Never heard of that one before, but I appreciate you for recommending it.
Sure. Happy to recommend.
All right. Where would you like people to learn more?
I'd say my website is going to be the easiest place. Always feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. But my website is pineapplecf, as in consultingfirm.com. So again, if you're listening on fast forward, pineapplecf, as in consultingfirm.com.
All right. Well, I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing, Jack.
Thanks for having me, Mario. This has been a blast. Thanks so much.
All right, Expert Authority World. We have another great episode here today. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate and qualify leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With the Expert Authority Effect publishing method, it's easier and faster than ever. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com to get started now. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I sure did. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the show. And also be sure to check out eainterviews.com for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.